Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Fearless Floyd Show. As always, me, your host, Fearless Floyd. Today is Wednesday, January 17th, 2024. Some of you are going to get this video immediately. Others, it's going to be a delay on YouTube. However, as you see behind me, the debate joke. The presidential debates have now become just a moot point in the political arena. Let's just leave it at that. Because they're pretty much irrelevant. And you're not going to see one for the Democratic Party, although there should be. And you see the stand-up routines that were presented by the Republican National Party for the Republican debates. Yeah, the debate joke, folks. That's what we're here to talk about. And how did the race to become the most powerful man or person, we haven't had a woman yet, in the world, become a farce? How did that happen? Let's take a look, see if we can find out. And at the end, we're going to be looking at a coin. While I'm getting over there, why don't y'all like, subscribe, share, hit that notification bell, leave a comment below. Tell me your feelings, how you feel about political parties. What do you think of political debates are just a joke, or should they even be utilized anymore? Tell me what you think. This is the Republican Party. It's because it's the last one that I was on. This is about who we are. Initially united in 1854 by the promise to abolish slavery, the Republican Party has always stood for freedom, prosperity, and opportunity. Today, as those principles come under attack from the far left, we are engaged in a national effort to fight for our proven agenda. Take our message to every American, grow the party, promote election integrity, and elect Republicans up and down the ballot. The principles of the Republican Party recognize the God-given liberties while promoting opportunity for every American. Let's go over here and see what the Democrats got to say about who they are, who we are. The Democratic National Committee is committed to electing Democrats everywhere, from school board to the Oval Office. We're mobilizing voters across the country and building our historic victories in 2020 and 2022. Together, we will build a better America. That's it. That's all they got to say about who they are. So you can compare the two. This is who the Democrats are. This is who the Republicans are. They're giving you an agenda here. The only agenda here is, okay, that's it. And together we will build a better America. America's been in decline for the last 3 years. The deficit has ballooned, but that's a whole nother topic that we'll get into later. Right? Can't hide. All right. Once upon a time, presidential debates. And I just picked this because it was a good story. This is Liberty Daily, a conservative alternative to the Drudge Report. And I didn't pick it because it was conservative. I just picked it. Why modern presidential debates have lost all relevance. by Christopher G. Adamo, January 8th, 2024. And I have not read this. So we're just going to go into it. I don't know how far I'll get. American First Report. As the nation lurches into the 2024 presidential primary campaign season, many Americans with a sense of our heritage will reflexively hearken back to the famed Lincoln-Douglas debates of the late 1850s as reason to continue the ritual this year. An open debate forum just seems like the right thing to do. Yet an intellectually honest appraisal of the debates of recent decades starkly proves exactly the opposite. Understanding this requires a deeper examination of both those original 1858 debates between U.S. Senate candidates Abraham Lincoln and Stephen A. Douglas, compared with all of the ways in which so-called debates have degenerated and been perverted since. Eventually, it becomes obvious that the sincere, worthy intentions of Lincoln and Douglas would hardly be served by the modern venue. Saddest of all, this is entirely by design. Exactly. So far, I don't have a problem with anything that he's stating. Everything is correct. It looks like a very well-written article, and looks like I'm going to be very happy to present it to you guys. So we'll move on to the next two paragraphs. With America teetering on the brink of civil war, Lincoln and Doug, I could have easily said that in 2024. With America teetering on the brink of civil war, Lincoln and Douglas believed that the interests of the public would be best served by an honest and open exchange of ideas. Highlighting their contrasting viewpoints, an informed citizenry could then make the best choice as to who to put in office. Of course, both candidates had to possess sufficient integrity to present an honest case before the voting jury. With little or no other means of informing the public, such venue provided invaluable and was eventually adopted as standard fare for presidential campaigns. Much has changed since then with the advent of widespread dissemination of the news, first through the press and then via radio and eventually television. A much greater portion of the American electorate had access to information on aspiring candidates. The inevitable proliferation of campaign ads throughout mass media ensured that candidates could get their message out to the public. Yet, the debates continued. Meanwhile, something else occurred in society that thoroughly upended any perceived benefits. Beginning in the immediate aftermath of World War II, American media began to drift left, embracing one precept of Marxist globalist ideology after another. This became increasingly evident in every aspect of network broadcasting, from glib one-liners of primetime sitcoms to severely slanted presentations of current events on the nightly news. By 1960, the television industry had sufficiently learned how to use visual cues to shift favor onto its desired candidates and away from those it opposed. And not to get off the article, but of course, we know that the CIA infiltrated the mainstream media as well as Hollywood. So there you go. It is no coincidence that although radio audiences polled after Nixon and Kennedy debated insisted Nixon had won, those viewing the event on television conclude exactly the opposite. Lighting and camera angles that portrayed Nixon as shadowy in contrast to Kennedy clearly had an impact. Furthermore, Nixon was prone to sweating and when under pressure. So this was subtly but consistently highlighted for television audiences who responded accordingly, even if not consciously. Since that time, the entire so-called debate format degenerated to where current installments are an embarrassing caricature of the one-time honored original. Every absurdity that leftists who dominate major media can incorporate into the events became predictable and thoroughly tedious. Again, this is absolutely intentional. Given the ugly reality of the leftist agenda, the last thing its minions want is a properly informed public. So every possible effort is made to change minds by presenting empty leftist promises of collective utopia while suppressing any truth from conservatives. For starters, no real debate occurs. A moderator picks and chooses which questions to ask of which candidates and is quick to interfere and stonewall as she sees fit. Often during the Republican primary season, candidates are posed with a yes or no group question, requiring them to respond with a show of hands. Again, this has nothing to do with ensuring an informed public, but rather is a means of belittling the candidates who, as potential leaders of the free world, are compelled to defer to the moderator as a pupil might do for a school teacher. Similarly, too much is made of such absurdities as one candidate verbally slamming another, or who has the best one-liners, as if such qualities in any way reflect the demands of running a country or making policy with world leaders on matters of international consequence. Such inanity begs the question of whether networks might seek to add a presidential swimsuit competition to upcoming debates. In drag on me. Occasions on which the moderator blatantly takes sides, always against the more conservative candidate and in favor of the leftist, have drastically increased in recent years. During the Obama-Romney debate of 2012, and not suggesting that Romney was shocked, as a point he made was directly challenged by the moderator, Candy Crowley, who had a printed publication mysteriously on hand by which she refuted him. Neither Obama nor any thoroughly disingenuous Democrat has ever faced similar treatment. Of course, all this escalated in the 2016 candidacy of President Trump, who often found himself attempting to make a counterpoint to some leftist platitude from Hillary while being incessantly interrupted by the moderator. Clearly, any notion of informing the public was totally supplanted by the intent of the deep state and their fake news lackeys to promote the leftist Democrat narrative while thoroughly suppressing anything from the right. Things got far worse in 2020. By then, the debates had descended into truly pathetic circus, owing to Joe Biden's obvious inability to understand a direct question or give anything resembling a coherent response. It was clear on every occasion that the entire effort of the leftists in charge was first to continually cover for Biden and then to prevent President Trump from actually making his case. And all of this brings up a fundamental difference between the left and the right that will ultimately render any real debate between them an impossibility. Leftist ideology was founded entirely on the lies of Marx. Hence, the leftist agenda can only be advanced through lies. So the greatest threat to it is any truthful analysis and discussion of who leftists are and what they actually intend for America. Meanwhile, those on the right can only benefit from honest discourse. It follows that every leftist with the ability to influence a situation will always seek to mock and suppress the truth in order to clear the field for the most efficient propagation of the approved lies. Another vaunted pillar of politics, as usual, bites the dust. America owes a huge debt of thanks to President Trump for finally showing that a candidate can make his case without having to genuflect at the leftist altar of fake news or the phony debate circus. This despite all the feigned outrage and indignation from leftist Democrats and establishment Republicans, as if he is forsaking some sacred constitutional obligation. He can reach out to the American people and trust their ability to see through the lies and manipulations, choosing for their own good and for the good of the country. Bio on Christopher G. Adamo is a lifelong conservative from the American heartland. He has been involved in grassroots and state-level politics for many years, seeking to restore and uphold the Judeo-Christian principles on which our nation is founded. His book, Rules for Defeating the Radicals, is the go-to guide for effectively confronting and overcoming the dirty tricks of the political left. Apparently, it's available on Amazon. As I said, I have not read this, but I just did read it. Okay. And perfect segue. At one time, the League of Women Voters sponsored the United States presidential debates in 1976, 1980, and 1984. But for those of you who don't remember those debates, I do. I graduated from high school in 1980, So I definitely remember 76 because that was the bicentennial year. That was just a huge year. And then 80 was, of course, Ronald Reagan. And then in 84, we know what happened in 1984. On October 2nd, 1988, the League of Women Voters, 14 trustees voted unanimously to pull out of the debates. On October 3rd, they issued a press release condemning the demands of the major candidates' campaigns. League of Women's Voters President Nancy Newman said that the debate format would, quote, perpetrate a fraud on the American voter, close quote, and that the organization did not intend to, quote, become an accessory to the hoodwinking of the American public, close quote. All presidential debates since 1988 have been sponsored by the Commission on Presidential Debates, a bipartisan organization run by the two major parties. Remember when I said coin? Two sides of the same coin, folks. The League of Women Voters said they weren't going to perpetrate the fraud. The League of Women Voters has evolved from a mighty political experiment designed to help 20 million newly enfranchised women vote in 1920 to a nonpartisan organization that is a recognized force in molding political leaders, shaping public policy, and promoting informed civic participation. To join us for our next 100 years, join your local league today. February 14th, 2020 marks 100 years that the League of Women Voters has empowered voters to defend democracy. Over the last century, we fought for election protection, democratic reforms, and equal access to the ballot, all while maintaining our commitment to nonpartisanship and fostering an informed electorate. As we look into our next 100 years, we aim to build power for the next generation of women leaders and voting rights activists. That's why we're celebrating our 100-year milestone by launching our new programmatic focus, Women, Power, Democracy. I don't know what that is. This gives you a little synopsis on some of the things that they've done in their history. One notable, the Towner Shepherd Maternity Act of 1921. Some of you go, what? Now, let me get down here. This is when it was founded in 1920. And then the next year, which obviously they don't have in here for some reason. Yep, there's a gap. I believe I am in. Yeah, I'm in the history. Yep. Hmm. But oh yeah, over here. Right here. The Shepherd-Towner Act, first passed in 1921, provided subsidies to those states that provided education in maternity and infant care. It was initially slated for 5 years and was twice extended in the 1920s, but finally failed to pass in 1929. On October 17th, 1929, Belle Sherwin, the president of the League of Women Voters, and Ruth Morgan of New York City headed a delegation to ask President Herbert Hoover to support the renewal of the federal aid to the states in the maternity and infancy work. It was later revived as part of the Social Security Act in 1935. There you go. There's your little snippet on the Shepherd-Towner Maternity Act of 1921, which is not mentioned here, required all births to be registered in the county of birth. Mhm. Absolutely. There you go. So obviously, Republican Party. The reason the League of Women Voters pulled out is because when George H.W. Bush running for reelection, remember who his advisor was? Karl Rove. So if you want to blame the denigration of the presidential debates, we can point at one person, Karl Rove. Okay. I'm not going to say he was the main culprit, but it was a combination, but mainly him. You got to remember Dukakis was running as we talked to the Democrats. Uh, so when they debated, they wanted very strict language as far as what questions could be asked and which questions could not be asked. Some questions were just off limits because of George H.W. Bush's prior um, appointment as the CIA director and then as vice president. And then, of course, you had the whole Iran-Contra affair going on as well. So there were still some unanswered questions to that. So the debates were highly restrictive as far as what questions could be asked uh, and who was actually going to ask the questions. And pretty much the League of Women Voters, because they sponsored the presidential debates, ran the debates. They, decided what questions they wanted to ask and how they wanted to format it and where they wanted to have it, the debate at. Well, all that changed. Now the political parties, they want to dictate where it's at, who's going to moderate it, how many questions can be asked, how much time that the candidates are going to be allowed to answer the question, what type of format it's going to be, on and on and on and on. And it got to the point where the League of Women Voters, determined that, hey, they don't want us to have any control over this anymore. So we're not even going to have anything to do with this. This is just nothing that we want to be associated with. We're not going to perpetrate the fraud on the American voter. That's what they said. I'm not making it up, quoting that. Okay. And that's what happened. Now, could that change? It's a possibility. But I definitely know that currently, the way the presidential debates are, all political debates, is a freaking joke. It's like these Hollywood, award ceremonies. They just had the Emmys. Who gives a crap about the freaking Emmys? They had 4 million viewers. That was probably all their friends and families that were just watching. Wasn't us out here in the public. I know I didn't watch it. And that's the issue. That's why the presidential debates are now a joke. And that has to change. We have to put back some integrity, some honor, some good faith, clean hands. We need to make our politicians, our elected officials, much more accountable because we, the people, allow them these authoritative positions. They should be held to a higher standard. Okay. They take an oath. Not only should they take that oath to uphold and defend the state and federal constitutions, but not lie to the American people. And that when you speak publicly, you're speaking under oath at all times. And if you lie, you're out of there, bro. Sis. They have to be held more accountable. Prosecutors, law enforcement. If you're caught violating the law, automatic 10 years flat in prison. Automatic. No parole, 10 years flat, 120 months. So that's baseline. Because you're in a special category. We held you to a special position. You must honor that. And to stand above us and piss on us, tell us it's raining and expect us to go for that? No. We people have the power. We need to change this. Okay. You want to run for elected office? You want to get in there and do some hanky panky? We got a place for you. We got an office for you. Yeah, we're gonna give you your own private secretary in your office. They'll be in the top bunk or the bottom bunk. Depends on who dominates the cell. The debate joke, folks. Two sides of the same coin. That's why it's a joke. Because the political parties are running it. That's why you hear Donald Trump talking about the leader of the Republican National Party, whatever her name is, McDaniel, needs to be removed. She needs to resign. And I agree with that wholeheartedly. Okay. They need to pull all funding from Nikki Haley, Ron DeSantis, anybody who's running now, pull it. Because if you keep rolling like that, you're going to piss off all the people who support Trump, and they're going to split off and they're going to start their own party. And you'll have a MAGA patriot party on your hands. And you'll be over there going, oh, wow, man, how the hell did that happen? Because don't think all these people can't turn around and fund a political party. Probably wouldn't be a bad idea anyway. Don't tell anybody you heard it here first. Like, subscribe, share, hit that notification bell, leave a comment below. I got some more videos coming at you. Thank you. Leave a comment. FearlessFloydShow@yahoo.com. FearlessFloydShow.com is my website. Fearless Floyd Show, every social media platform. Peace in the Middle East, folks. And man, Jesus Christ, Iraq, please, man. Boom, pull that lever and let us go home.